Support for Connecticut East this week comes from Arisu Anime, New England's premier anime superstore located in Mystic, Connecticut, and a second location now open in Fairfield, Connecticut. Visit us at Arisu, A-R-I-S-U, anime.com. Newport Mansions presenting the 19th annual Newport Mansions Wine and Food Festival, September 20th through 22nd at Rosecliff. 3 days of expert seminars, wines and spirit tastings, and an opening night vintner dinner with master chef and author Jacques Pepin. Tickets and information at newportmansions.org. And SCAD, the Southeastern Connecticut on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence, is offering a $3,500 sign-on bonus for licensed clinicians. Go to licensedclinicians.org to learn more. That's licensedclinicians.org. They're some of the brightest minds around and have taken on and beaten the best debate teams in the US. We find out about the National Prison Debate League and its teams of incarcerated individuals. Plus, we take a look at other stories making the headlines from around the region. This is Connecticut East This Week. Hello, I'm Brian Scott Smith. When you hear the word debate teams, you often think of younger people at colleges or universities. Now turn that idea on its head and think about debate teams of incarcerated people in prisons up and down the US, and welcome to the National Prison Debate League. If you're someone with lived experience of the prison system, you'll know how isolating it can be, and until recently, many prison systems didn't offer any kind of educational opportunities for inmates to better themselves as they serve out their time. So sit back and learn about a unique organization founded and run by former incarcerated individuals and supported by some of the nation's top academics, which might make you rethink your views about those serving in our prison systems. Joining us on the podcast is Daniel Troop, founder and executive director of the National Prison Debate League, and Brittany Lamar, assistant director of the National Prison Debate League. To you both, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here. Thanks for having us, Brian.
Thank you for having us. We're excited to have this conversation.
So, Daniel, I want to kick off with you. You are the founder and executive director of the National Prison Debate League. Tell us about how this all started, because it's very personal to you.
Yeah, it's very personal because it really gave me a life-saving outlet when I was incarcerated within the Massachusetts prison system in the early 2000s. And I found debate as a vehicle of upward mobility, both academically and socially. And it was very unexpected, my introduction to debate, certainly prison debate, as I did not have any kind of background in debate. But in 2006, while incarcerated at Old Colony Correctional Center in Massachusetts, which was a level 5 maximum security prison at the time, we had no access to higher education while inside. So my peers and I, who really wanted to elevate and not stagnate intellectually while we were being warehoused, sort of found debate by accident and were really able to use it as an amazing platform of self-discovery and then challenging each other with these big ideas. And we had some epic discussions and it kind of all morphed from there.
I just want to stay with you for a second, because I think what's interesting is, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here, I think it is a stereotype that community has, is that people believe that people who are in prison probably aren't that intelligent. To hear this, obviously, helps to break that stereotype that there's all types of people who are incarcerated for whatever reason, and education is an important thing.
Honestly, it's one of the greatest equalizers I've ever observed within the prison environment, because ultimately, I think that what we're combating is ignorance in many forms. And that was certainly true in my life and my experiences, both in my own life, in which things that I was ignorant of and didn't have healthy inputs or positive support systems growing up to give me healthy inputs, and also just ignorance of what we don't know or the misconceptions we have of each other. And that really got sort of illuminated within the prison setting, because you're basically at the lowest point of your life, and there's a lot of people who are looking at you as what your record says you are, and you don't have an opportunity to transcend that record by sitting in a cell being warehoused and stagnating. So we were able to really find a way to activate that potential that we all had, and honestly that we didn't know we had. I didn't even finish high school. I had to end up getting my GED while I was in county jail, and I certainly never had any public speaking experience when I was younger. I just grew up talking the juvenile system. That's what I tell people, because I was a young kid, 8 years old, in the juvie system in Pennsylvania. And it really was just Darwinism. It was social Darwinism, and you had to really fend for yourself. And so by the time we were in the adult system, my peers and I, we weren't looking to cannibalize each other anymore. We were looking to grow together, because none of us wanted to live like that. And we found some creative outlets to give us a platform for upward mobility. And it's been amazing ever since.
How easy was it to actually get the prison system back then to do something for you?
It was ridiculously difficult, as you can imagine, because prison staff are literally trained that everything that incarcerated people tell them or present to them is a lie. And so I guess my debate skills developed naturally, and my peers as well, because to convince a prison official to give you an opportunity is in itself a huge accomplishment. And I often tell people that if the college debate teams that we ended up facing early on knew how many debates we had to win off the stage just to get an opportunity to join them on that stage, they probably wouldn't have accepted our challenge, because we were very well versed in being told no and trying to be persuasive enough to convince prison officials to let us do something positive. They were very fear-based and concerned about what kind of negative reactions they might receive from allowing us to do something new and innovative.
Brittany, talk to us about your own lived experience as well. Was your situation any different or similar?
I think several of the environmental characteristics that Daniel has presented are pretty much mirrored in most prison facilities. So yes, I can certainly agree to some of those characteristics that he mentioned regarding sort of a challenge to pursue positive outlets and creative opportunities. The difference with my experience is that there was currently an operable higher education in prison program. So within my first year, I was able to start attending courses at Wesleyan and Quinnipiac and Trinity. All three universities had courses running at the facility that I was at. And leaning into education was sort of where I put all my time and energy, and where I have since my release. And I found it to be one of the most meaningful opportunities while I was there, and Daniel says it pretty poignantly, but the ability to, although be confined to a facility, but decarcerate your mind. Sometimes, our minds are our own worst enemies, but the ability to opens one mind, engage in an educational space, and to feel like you're growing and developing and able to become more engaged in what's going on in the world, what's going on in your communities, what's going on in our country. It's really a very uplifting experience. We didn't have a debate program, but upon my release and learning about Daniel's organization is how I got involved, because it's just an extremely powerful program and organization. The educational programming that it provides, it's just a very unique way to demonstrate, publicly the intellectual capacity of incarcerated people, because like to say, we are not the exception. We are sort of the rule. There are more people, many more people who are doing amazing things in their incarceration and upon release than we talk about. It's often there's a lot of media coverage prior to someone's incarceration and very little about the successes upon release.
Let's fast forward. Daniel, you then started, obviously, the National Prison Debate League. How easy was it to get it to start? And then how easy was it to then try and convince, obviously, the prison systems or, in various states, etc., to sort of let you in, as it were?
Well, Brian, I got to tell you, I don't think easy is the right term, because I don't think at any turn we've had a very smooth path. It's always been challenging, but we've been able to parlay, each success and build off of them foundationally to earning our credibility and trust, because that's what it takes to convince prison officials, certainly. But even more importantly, I'd rather focus on the buy-in from our participants, because trust is very fragile and it's very hard earned. So when we ask our participants to trust us and our process, it can be daunting to folks. And I understand that, having been in their shoes. And so, yeah, we definitely have to convince prison officials to give us the opportunity to get access to work with people in the systems. But that's also gotten easier with time, with a track record of success where there's been zero incidents whatsoever in terms of any negative outcome, inside or out, from any of our programming. Because again, opportunities are so scarce, Brian, that the folks who sign up for our program voluntarily are self-motivated. right? There are no incentives for our programming other than you want to better yourself. And so folks who join up have to really at least be willing to take a risk, put themselves out there. And to some extent, correctional leaders have taken risks by doing new things and allowing us to operate in new ways, in paradigm changing ways. For instance, Connecticut, I can tell you, where we just launched at both York and Cheshire, that has been a really cool pilot because they have never done anything like this before. Most people haven't. But even in terms of virtual programming, it's the first time in the Connecticut state history that they've operated a fully virtual program like ours with the in-person component at the end. So, we're also having to learn together with some of our TOC partners because of the technology and some of the aspects of the work that makes it all run that they're not necessarily used to. But we're changing the paradigm together and we're earning trust together. And that allows us to keep opening doors for the folks inside. And that's the model, right? Is just keep earning trust and building on each success in a way that the positive outcomes are undeniable and will continue to be supported because it is reducing conflict in the institutions. It is changing the dynamics between the way staff perceive incarcerated people and vice versa. And it changes the way that we can communicate with each other in these spaces where the power dynamics are obviously very unbalanced and disproportionate. So even having a staff member on one of our teams in Maine, we had an integrated staff team, has allowed us to push those boundaries of trust and what's possible in carceral settings in a way that I've been very impressed and proud of, and honestly surprised in many ways, of some of our DOC partners and leaders who've been willing to take a little more risk than they're probably comfortable with because they can see the vision as well. And that's what's really been so rewarding, is to see the positive impact on both sides, on officers, on staff, on incarcerated people, and then in the community and these college partners that we work with. So it's a real dual effect. And I just want to make sure that everyone at home understands when they talk about the NPDL or understand our operations, that is what we're shooting for. We are looking to decarcerate minds on both sides of the wall because ignorance knows no boundaries. And the NPDL takes its mission very seriously. When we talk about building bridges, amplifying voices, and decarcerating minds, all three of those prongs are featured in the way that we do our work and actualize our programming every day.
Brittany, I want to turn to you. There's many teams that obviously are part of the National Prison Debate League as it continues to grow. You've been responsible for the two in Connecticut, at York, the all-women's prison here in the state, and also to Cheshire as well, a men's facility. Talk to us about both of those, how you went about that, and also both of the teams, along with many of your other teams, had resounding successes at their particular debates recently.
Yeah, so it was really important if we were going to start programming here in the state, to definitely have a team at the women's facility. That's extremely important to me, to continue to expand the representation of incarcerated women in this program and just, population in general. So the ability to sort of navigate in our initial discussions with the Department of Corrections, and there was a desire from the women's facility to have this program there. They were also interested in sort of the equal representation coming from the incarcerated population here in Connecticut. And then Cheshire's was operating within the True unit at Cheshire Correctional. So that was a pretty good fit, as that unit is suited to do some of more progressive opportunities in terms of access to technology and Wi-Fi to be able to engage in the 12-week virtual training. It took a while to get through sort of the MOU and process because we were asking for things that the administration has never done before in terms of live streaming, recording, clearances, many of sort of the administrative hurdles that come with doing something that hasn't been done before, and getting the buy-in that this is something worth trying. And we have the examples of the successes in other states to sort of demonstrate that this is a really great opportunity. And, this is also the benefits that it creates within the facility itself and for the institution. So with that, each team, through our Director of Education and Training, John Katsoulis at Boston College, both of our teams were connected to different coaches. The York Correctional team was taught by Joe Schatz, the Director of Debate at Binghamton University, and John Katsoulis. So both of those two coaches every Tuesday afternoon would virtually meet with the team of incarcerated women at York. And they started to, one, go in depth into the research. So this was a nuclear weapons policy topic debate. And so it was a lot of dense, heavy research material that the coaches worked through with them. We provided additional material. And so there was a liaison at the facility that would send over their draft arguments because the participants, were responsible for writing their arguments and practicing their speeches, etc. And a similar sort of situation at Cheshire, but they were paired with coaches from Cornell University. So Jody Anderson and Sam Nelson taught that team at Cheshire. And then ultimately, it was a really great experience. I was extremely proud of the work. These teams were so committed. The amount of work that goes on outside of the training sessions, is sort of not spoken about, but the amount of material, there's hundreds of pages of research material that these students are reading and sifting through and analyzing and trying to understand, brand new material that they're getting in 12 weeks, able to sort of break it down, understand arguments on both sides of something, practice writing something, pulling together speeches. There's so much work. I know the Cheshire team had sort of some approvals at the end, pulling together to meet from like 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. They were staying up at night trying to pull together their arguments. Facilities were really engaged in ways that they were willing to support some of the efforts. And then we sort of coordinated the debate events themselves, and all went well. Before both debate events, we order food for the teams so that the team of incarcerated students and the staff and the debate students at the university level who come in can all sort of eat and speak to one another and engage on a human level with one another before the debate. So an hour before each one of these debates, there was, time spent with one another, connections made, conversations within the facility. And it's sort of a really meaningful component to this. And then we worked with organizations to design the polos and get khaki pants for both teams to wear so that both teams were able to stand on that stage in clothes that also humanize them.
I want to turn very quickly to the fact that, per debates, the topics were super heavyweight, and you've sort of both alluded to, obviously, the hundreds of pages that the students went through. I mean, the questions for the Connecticut teams were whether or not the US should adopt a no first use nuclear posture, and also whether the federal government should substantially de-emphasize current diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in its attempt to reform the criminal justice system. I'm not going to get into those, but I just wanted to make it clear to the listeners the heavyweight nature of obviously these debate questions, which are phenomenal. Was it interesting to see the reaction from the other debate teams from the universities and the schools?
It was such a great energy. I think during the debate itself, there's moments here or there throughout someone's speech where like the whole room sort of feels it and is like, wow, that was really well said, or that was a really great argument. And there were moments like that, and it was, felt in the room. I want to add that in the Cheshire debate, the entire unit, so that room was filled with about 120 other incarcerated people. So it was a very live public debate, and you can't hear it in the recording, but each time sort of a speech was said, completed, I mean, the room sort of lit up. And at the end, the energy was just so strongly felt, the joy and the excitement and the shared sort of pride that was felt. It was, just sort of one of a kind. But I don't know that surprised was the answer. I think it was all the responses that we received about these debates is the university teams are just so grateful for the opportunity. And it seems like they all really enjoyed themselves as well. After the debates finished, they were also able to shake hands, talk to one another. I think there was a really good demonstration of the sort of human connections that were built. And it was just a really good shared experience on both sides.
Yeah, I think that it's a great question. And I think there's two things I just wanted to add to Brittany's statement, which was, again, very point. I would just say that when it comes to the topics, we give our teams input, but we also will go with, like, our director of education is always attuned to the national collegiate topic. And so we also try to make the range challenging for our participants, because I said in the beginning, there certainly are no inferior minds behind prison walls. And our teams prove that every time they take the stage. But also, it's interesting because these policy topics do vary. And I love that sometimes our teams even play devil's advocate because it might not be something they personally believe in. And they're not all criminal policy reform topics, right? Because we don't want our teams to be one dimensional. We want to show that intellectual range where our teams can not just intelligently discuss any subject, and as Brittany said, basically master it within a 12-week semester-long study program. It's just really impressive that many of our participants don't even have college degrees or access to college programming or are enrolled in it, even if it exists at their facilities, but it still shows how impressive the potential is. As Brittany said, the intellectual capacity of incarcerated people, especially when you're in there being starved intellectually, and you find an outlet for learning that is fun and exciting. It's not like you're sitting in a classroom being lectured to. So it's a non-traditional way for adult learners to engage in heady academic topics, as you so rightly point out, and still make it engaging and not be bored by reading hundreds of pages and drafting arguments and analyzing statistics and things and national trends. Because at the end of it, you prevail because it's mind on mind. Regardless of these specific arguments made on any policy, it's mind on mind. And the fact that our teams prevail more times than not against some of the brightest young minds in America speaks volumes for anyone who would doubt why we should be investing more in educational resources for people that we incarcerate and tend to devalue. And we would like to reverse that trend and are showing people not only are our students worth investing in, but the reaction from the college students, which you so rightly ask about, has since 2006, when I've been involved with prison debate, every single cohort of college students who's come through those doors and engaged with us behind the walls has left with an absolute stereotype shattering experience that they then take out to their friends and family and relay. And that's how we change this false narrative of demonized humanity that we incarcerate.
Daniel Troop, founder and executive director, and Brittany Lamar, assistant director of the National Prison Debate League. Congratulations on what is just a superb program. Continued success with everything that you do, and continued success for all of the teams, all of your debate teams. And thank you so much for sharing all of this with us on the podcast today.
Thank you for taking an interest, Brian.
Thank you.
And since recording that interview with Daniel and Brittany, the National Prison Debate League organization has expanded its teams with a groundbreaking program launching a co-ed team at the DC Department of Corrections, also a new team in the state of Ohio, and they've been implementing a program abroad in Finland in their prison systems too. Connecticut East this week is made possible by Arisu Anime, a Japanese pop culture haven nestled in Mystic and Fairfield, Connecticut, specializing in anime and manga merchandise, featuring an integrated Japanese convenience section designed to mirror Tokyo's vibrant streets. Arisu offers an immersive shopping experience, complete with towering statues and authentic capsule machines. Whether you're a seasoned collector or a curious newcomer, Arisu invites you to explore a world where fantasy and reality merge at Arisu Anime. That's ARISUANIME.com. Newport Mansions, as seen on HBO's The Gilded Age. Newport Mansions preserves and protects 11 historic properties and landscapes in Newport, Rhode Island, exemplifying 3 centuries of achievements in American architecture, decorative arts, and landscape design. Plan your visit this year and attend some of the mansion's signature events, including the Newport Flower Show, June 21st to 23rd, Newport Mansions Wine and Food Festival, September 20 to 22nd, and holidays at the Newport Mansions, November 23rd to January 1st. Tickets and information at newportmansions.org. And
SCAD, the Southeastern Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence, is looking for licensed clinicians and is offering the top benefits packages in the state. Go to licensedclinicians.org to learn more. That's licensedclinicians.org.
Time now for a look at other stories making the headlines this week. Connecticut made history recently as the nation's very first cannabis ombudsperson began her role in the state. Erin Kirk, a lawyer and consumer advocate of Norwalk, will be responsible for monitoring the palliative use of marijuana and the medical cannabis system and looking after the interests of qualifying patients and caregivers. Kirk, who is a medical marijuana patient herself, says since adult use became legal in the state, medical users have been left behind.
I do have subject matter expertise that people have admitted that they don't have because this was not their area of expertise. They were brought in to do consumer advocacy and other things. And cannabis is a very specific niche. It was decided we needed a patient advocate with subject matter expertise who could assist in crafting legislation that would further preserve patients' rights.
Although Kirk's position does not come with any legal powers over cannabis producers in the state, she says she hopes direct communication with them will be the key to effecting change. Kirk says one of the areas she will be looking into is labeling a product so medical patients and others know exactly what they're consuming and whether it's been altered in any way.
You can do whatever you want as a producer as long as you tell people and give them, as patients in particular, but certainly all consumers, whom I believe pretty much everybody's a patient, they should have that knowledge. They should know what they are consuming. And the price is extremely high here. So let's know what we're paying exorbitant prices for.
Kirk's position was created by the legislator and is independent to other state agencies, but she says she will be working with and sharing information with the Department of Consumer Protection on cannabis-related matters, as they are the agency with oversight of that market and have statutory powers. Currently, DCP are undertaking several investigations into Theraplant, one of the state's approved cannabis producers for both medical and recreational marijuana. However, details of those investigations have not been revealed by the agency. The city of New London, Connecticut has become only the second city in the state after New Haven to be awarded a Clean Communities Leader Award for its work towards cleaner and more sustainable transportation. The award comes from Clean Transportation Communities of Southern Connecticut, which is a U.S. Department of Energy partnership to advance clean transportation nationwide. Mike Ergo is the president of the Connecticut League of Conservation Voters and said he applauds cities like New London in their efforts to clean up their environment, but the state needs to do a lot better.
The legislative session came to a close once again with little significant action to fight for a cleaner climate. This inaction is inexcusable given the levity of the issues Connecticut is facing. We hope lawmakers will see fit to call for a special session to help us reach our climate goals and greenhouse gas reduction targets.
Clean Transportation said the award recognized New London for installing 45 electric vehicle charging stations throughout the city, which can help improve air quality for local residents. Paul Wessel is the director of Clean Transportation and said New London was leading in more ways than one.
We're here today to recognize the City of New London's leadership in making 77 electric vehicle charging ports available to its residents and visitors, and it's probably among the highest number of EV charging opportunities per city resident of anywhere in the state. So go New London.
New London has also been running a smart bus service as well for the last few years called a micro-transit system that allows city users to call a bus to their location using a smartphone and app, similar to car-sharing services like Uber and Lyft, allowing those who don't have transport to get around the city easier, and for those with cars to leave them behind, saving gas money and helping improve local air quality conditions. The town of Middletown will become the home of a new national war memorial honouring the sacrifice and contribution of the Special Guerrilla Unit during the Vietnam War. Senator Richard Blumenthal, who's a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee and Veterans Affairs Committee, announced new legislation recently to honor the SGU and why it's so important.
This national memorial at the site of this monument will show them the honor they deserve, will recognize the pride that they should have, will help with the healing that is so important, and will educate Americans about what they did, and perhaps lead to recognition of other similar allies.
Blumenthal's legislation would designate the existing SGU memorial at the Greater Middletown Military Museum as a national monument to the 35,000 SGU members who died in Vietnam supporting U.S. forces. Connecticut's Commissioner for the Department of Veterans Affairs, Ron Welch, also thanked and acknowledged the men of the SGU.
These warriors risked their lives, they risked it all, and it was all about rescuing our pilots from the Army, the Marine Corps, the Navy, and the Air Force, as well as providing significant combat intelligence on the borders of Vietnam and interrupting and disrupting a lot of the combat operations. And our team up at Connecticut Department of Veterans Affairs support this bill and have these soldiers properly recognized.
SGU forces helped to rescue downed American pilots and deflected North Vietnamese Army troops from moving along the Ho Chi Minh Trail and more during the course of the years-long conflict. That's all from us for this edition. Do send us your questions and story ideas to the show via our website at connecticut-east.com or Facebook or Twitter at Connecticut East and on Instagram at Connecticut East This Week. And you can listen to the show again on our social platforms, on demand, and by asking your smart speaker to play Connecticut East This Week podcast. And please like, follow, and share on your social media too. I'm Brian Scott Smith. Thank you for listening.